healing, dreaming, believing, manifesting, pivoting. Welcome to Pivot's Pulse Podcast.
Welcome to Pivot's Pulse Podcast. I'm Lynne Leone, Executive Director, and today we're going to be talking to Sarah Ross. She's one of our trauma specialists, and she's going to be talking about the vulnerability and neutralizing shame with clients that have trauma disorders. Sarah, welcome to Pivot's Pulse Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So can you tell us a little bit about you and your background and your work with trauma disorders?
Yeah, so I am a licensed master social worker. I've been in the field since 2023, it's about 3 years now. I went to University of Maryland, Baltimore School of Social Work. Absolutely loved my time there. And right now I focus on EMDR with clients. I incorporate IFS, and I work a lot with clients who have PTSD, CPTSD, and a lot of the core work is working around the shame that comes with it.
You know, it is a shame disorder, and that is one of the things that really keeps clients stuck and many clients from even reaching out for help.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, when they come to us, have you noticed that they may be in therapy for a while before they even broach the topic of what has actually happened?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I can't even start working with the shame until maybe after 10, 12 sessions, just because it takes so long to build that rapport with clients. And that's the main component of it. Like, I'm not someone who rushes things. I don't believe in you can only do a certain amount of sessions. I really think it takes a long time, and the most important factor is building that trust with them.
I totally agree with that. And, you know, when they finally are feeling that trust and that they can go into the trauma, you know, oftentimes, if not always, you know, you are the first person that they have let into that door to share their secret, you know, to share and break the silence that they have, you know, been told and conditioned not to share.
And I always thank clients after they share something that's really difficult.
And I think that's one way of really honoring their strength and their ability to move forward in their process, because that is such an accomplishment for
It
to be able
really
to do
is.
that. You know, what would you suggest to other providers, you know, when they feel like a client really hasn't progressed further?
We as providers have one interpretation of what progress looks like. And we might think they haven't progressed, but they might think they might have progressed. So the biggest thing is having that conversation with them, always including the client in the conversation.
Because their idea of progression may be that they've come to every single session.
Right.
They have shown up, and if they've shown up and they've talked about many other things except for why they're there,
Right.
they
That's,
they've
yeah.
they've been successful.
You might have a client who, after the 10th session, has some tears in their eyes, right? That could be huge progress. And
Mm.
it's really important to acknowledge that as well, that that is progress.
And I think it really takes a very skilled therapist to be able to discern that difference.
Yeah.
And you know, if there are any therapists out there that are dealing with burnout or dealing, you know, with an overloaded schedule, or, maybe aren't trained to the capacity that they need to be trained when working with trauma, they're going to miss that. And it's really unfortunate for the client because they're not getting the highest level of care. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you've had clients that have come to you and say, that they've been in therapy before. I mean, this is something I know I come across all the time where they've told me that they have been in therapy for 20 years and, the presenting issue is they have, multiple events in their life where it's just been trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And the therapists that they've gone to have said, I can't help you. Like, you're unfixable. And they have been shamed in therapy. So I'm curious, like, what do you do for your clients when that happens?
It makes me so sad that someone experiences that. Shame is the feeling of being unworthy, not feeling like you belong. And it's a human emotion that we all feel at some point, up to different degrees. But I would start by really building that sense of worthy and belonging between me and the client. Ultimately, because they were shamed by someone else, just saying, I'm really glad that you're here and talking about this. It's really important to me that we work on this together. And I always incorporate we because it's a team effort.
That's right. Yeah. Because, in essence, you know, they're not carrying their burden alone anymore. And when a client finally feels that and they start sharing, that is, the true essence of our work. And I think it's just so very important, and it becomes, so life changing for a client when they don't feel alone anymore.
I mean, secrecy, silence, and judgment feed that shame. If a provider is like, oh, maybe like we can't talk about this or I can't help you, well, they're going to try to isolate more. They're going to not talk about it, and that just feeds it.
Right, right. Especially the one, I can't help you or you're unfixable.
Yeah.
That just reinforces every narrative that they have heard throughout their life that it's your problem.
Yeah.
This is, something about you when all those narratives have been conditioned in, from other people that they have absorbed as they've moved through their systems of growth. And it's very yeah, just like you, it just makes me very, very sad. And on the other side of the table, it's all about empowering the client to realize, look, you have been through so much, you can do this, you
Yeah.
can do this. So you had mentioned in the beginning, some of the other modalities that you use. Um, do you tend to, you know, um, flow through each of those modalities when you're working with your clients with trauma?
I would say that I really start off by using IFS more first. And for those of you who don't know, IFS is internal family systems therapy, and it's working with our individual parts. And basically we all have parts and no parts are bad. So even if it's giving us like a maladaptive behavior, we don't want to look at it as like a bad part. We want to figure out why it's doing what it's doing.
I use IFS as well, and being able to, acknowledge these parts for, and thanking those parts for helping them survive through
Yes.
everything they have been through, right? And that those parts are, so valuable, but at this point in time, as they're trying to heal, that they may be, a little bit maladaptive at this point. I'm curious too, if you think about all the clients that you've worked with, is there one case that you think has been the most successful for you?
Yeah, I think when I have clients who, I've been working with for a while, and then maybe like session 12 or so, they come out with something that they haven't talked about. For example, like maybe it's an eating disorder. And I think that over the sessions that I've noticed is really just providing them the space to talk about it without trying to fix it. They're not going to be ready. They've barely just told me about it. Shame is that primitive emotion that we have, and then the what goes along with it is being able to be vulnerable, like having the courage to talk about it. And so really just I think as providers, we need to help the clients practice having that courage to speak up about it, giving them
Mm-hmm.
the space to just feel what it is without trying to change it.
Because the shame can transmute into, you know, another feeling and ultimately empower them into their true self, into their authentic self, and understand that, the trauma that they have been through, they can transmute that as well into all the strengths that they have, because they have so many with everything that they have been through, and because they have such a window of tolerance, they're able to really make it in this world. And I think our positions are so valuable to be able to help them see that when they can't see it in themselves.